So we're going to talk today about emotional punch marketing. We're really copy mostly, right? We're really talking about mostly the copy. And so we have our fancy punch recipe for today. And I didn't make it because I have to work tonight. And if I drink this, it will be all over because I have a big marketing meeting in the morning. But it has orange juice, cranberry juice, Chef Marie's special cocktail blend. And this one I really like. So it's super cool. It's orange and lemon, and it's not really sweet. It does have sugar in it, but not a lot of sugar in it. So like if sometimes when you have the edge of the drinks and then combined with the fact that it already has fruit in it, like everything's too sweet.
Yeah.
This isn't. This is orange and lemon, and it just has this nice, because it's really like rind, right? It's like zest. And it has this really nice tangy kind of taste to it. It's not too sugary. So I really like that. So I can't wait to make this one. And also because it has ginger ale in it, which is my favorite. And you could choose your own rum. Pick your own kind of rum. She suggests golden or amber rum, coconut rum. Pick your own rum.
Nice.
Sounds like a lot of fun.
You can get that mix over at mchef.com. Yeah, you can pay me later, Marie. No.
Well, or you can get that one on Amazon too.
Oh, you can get that one on Amazon as well. Okay, very good. So I'll share a little emotional punch story here about that drink. When I was in high school, the very first New Year's Eve party I went to, I drank punch and rum punch, and I threw up, and I've never been able to drink rum again. So there you go.
I'm sure you could substitute some other liquor in here, but oh my gosh, too funny.
So how do we even follow that? Thank you for showing up. We'll see you next week.
Julia can't drink or she'll throw up. Yeah, there we go. There's some emotional punch right there.
Yeah, there you go. There is. I'm always that
emotional baggage was not supposed to be a part of our punch talk here.
Oh, nobody told me. Oh my God. Are you kidding me? I have lots of emotional baggage, and I'm always that girl, the reason I don't drink, who cries. Like I cry. So there you go. I can't hold my liquor, and I share too much.
That's too funny. So I love that. Well, what do we want? We want to start with really talking about, kind of a little tie-in. This is like a little, I don't know, I'm going to call it a little continuation of last week's, because last week we were really talking about, all those different things that really make it so that something's gooey, something's really satisfying, and people want to consume it, right? And some of what we mentioned were the fact that there were these the copy matters, right? The words matter. And so with that, that's really where, Julia, I got some questions for you, because you're an expert in more of the copywriting area than I am. Although I'm a writer, it's a different kind when you're writing articles than it is when you're writing copy for web pages or copy for landing pages or marketing messages, right? It's a different type of copy, but it still has to have that. And we talked about that last week, that it has to have 60% emotion, 20% fact, and 20% opinion. And so thinking about that 60% emotion, what does that mean? Like, how do we put that in? How do we know if it's right? We don't want to just make people laugh and cry. Like, I don't know if I could do that.
You make me laugh and cry all the time.
but as you always say, because you're the one who always points that out to everybody, audience matters first.
Yes.
Right?
It does.
So what does the audience care about? Do they want to cry? Do they want to laugh? What do they need?
So the audience, first of all, you need to be in front of the right audience. So if your copy isn't landing, there's either something not hitting the audience where it needs to be, or you're in front of the wrong audience altogether. So that's the first thing.
I'm going to say that that's likely the case, because I see it so often that too many people don't have the right lead generation for the product they're selling. So
Correct.
What their lead generation is drawing in is completely counter to the fit to what they're selling as a product.
Yes. So here are the things. First of all, you need to hit their pain points. And I know standard marketing out there is we sit down and we guess their pain points. The only way, well, we do. we
No,
come
I'm laughing because it's so true.
like here's our thing. We say, oh my gosh, I have this great idea for a coaching program or a book or whatever it is. Then we sit down and we go through this exercise of pain points, and we determine the pain points as the person running it. We don't actually get out there and talk to people. And what's really important in copy is talking to those people who have the pain points, getting their buzzwords. What are the words they're using to describe their own pain? Because that's what they really need back, is those reflected back to them so that they recognize them.
Yes.
Another reason that it's so important to talk to your consumers before you actually write the copy is you also want to talk to them at the level that they're at. If you think that you are doing a program for elite women and elite women don't feel like you're talking to them, you're talking at another level that maybe is below them, they're going to determine right away you're not the person that can get them to where they need to be.
Right.
Conversely, if you're talking to a beginner and you're trying to show off, all these big words, all these things you're going to do, they're going to be so overwhelmed, they're going to run.
Right. Or you're trying to give them the whole elephant, right? You're trying
exactly.
You're like, I cannot eat this all at once, right? I cannot consume this much information. So that overwhelm is not a good place so the confused mind doesn't buy.
There you go. Perfect.
Right? It's that simple. If you're confused, you're just not going to buy. Overwhelm is not the same thing as making sure that they feel that they need you because there's so many steps and there's a lot of hidden landmines. That's a totally different thing than just overwhelming your audience.
Well, and they're two different things too. That I need you is a recognition that you have something I need and I'm ready. That overwhelm is most of the time caused by fear.
Right.
And you don't want to do fear-based marketing. You don't want to scare somebody into buying your product. You're going to end up with a couple of things there, like buyer's remorse.
Right.
Or, and you have to remember this about your products and services. If people are out there saying bad things about them, it could be that person never showed up. They didn't do what they were going to do, but most people won't admit that.
Right.
It's the person they hired. It's their fault. They didn't serve me. They sold me something and then they didn't serve me well. So it is important that you keep all that connected and do what you say you're going to do and not overwhelm people.
Right. And I think that's starting from that place of true connection, right? We always talk about that here, is that when you're truly connecting with what they really need, where their desires are, where their problems lie, where that pain really is, they want a solution. So when they say, wow, you've given me value and I understand that you're a value provider who gives more, who does all of those things, plus, then I want to be a part of that. Then I want to utilize you. So it makes an easier sale in the process of it. So I want to mention that really briefly, like benefits. We think benefits, like, features and benefits are not the same thing. This I know from writing a ton of copy over the years on boxes, right? On boxes of product, like the ton of that is that what the engineers think are the benefits to a product are truly features. So like you most likely are highlighting your features and not your benefits. You're disguising them maybe with a little twist of language, but it's not the same thing. It is not what people are looking for. They don't know your terminology. They don't get it. You have to understand benefits truly in your audience's language. And what do they really want? What resonates with them? What is of value to them? And think about those and make sure that your bullet points, and usually there are bullet points on landing pages, on packaging, on just about anything that you do, there's some kind of bullet point features that's where you instead use benefits.
You do. And here's another place where people get caught up: results versus process. Exactly. Articulate your results. Nobody gives a damn about your process, how you get them there. Nobody ever says.
That's an onboarding conversation.
Yeah, that's an onboarding conversation. It's not, how are you going to get me there? Like, yes. Nobody cares that you have this, well, except in my case, I have a proprietary process, but in everybody else's case, nobody cares about process. No.
Right. Well, and this is the thing, like, lot of people on our team were like, why don't you say we have a patent pending process, a patent pending system? Like, because nobody cares.
Yeah,
Like, it
exactly.
doesn't really matter. It just does what it says it's going to do. Like,
Yes.
and does it matter to me? No, I learned this from products. You do mark your product, you mark your page, patent pending, but nobody else cares that. It's in the small print down at the bottom so that when somebody else tries to knock you off, you have a cease and desist you can do, but it has nothing to do with selling it to someone. Like, they honestly don't care.
Do you get a lot of cease and desist orders? Just
over
curious
the
why you
years,
threw that out there.
over the years, I've had to do both, send them and receive them. And a lot of times they're scammy, like they're not real. But the ones I've had to send were very, very real on behalf of clients. So
Okay, just checking.
I didn't personally send them. Of course, an attorney sent them, but I usually had to help prep them.
Okay,
So.
okay.
It happens all the time in the consumer market, let me tell you.
So here's something that people never think of in copy. We go to a marketing company and they write drip campaigns, or we talked about this a little last week, content. Here's your content. It's really important that we speak to people where they're at, not where they want them to be. So that's the first thing. Speak to them about in a way that's where they are today, and paint that vision of where they want to be and the results you provide.
Aspiration is, you want to lead them there. You want to say that that's the vision of the future. I'm going to get you there for the thing you really value the most. But you don't want to put them all there. They're not ready yet.
Exactly. Here's the other thing people don't take into consideration. Campaigns cannot be one size fits all. And a lot of them are. So
I tell you how many times I have read marketing campaigns put on by very expensive marketing companies that look like they were ripped off a template off the internet.
Either that, or you steal somebody else's and just insert your words. I've seen that a lot. Like, wow, that doesn't.
Yep, I have seen that way too much.
Yeah, that doesn't really fit. So here's the deal. Depending on where you are or where you're delivering your content, you're going to have a different feel to it. So here's a perfect example. Facebook ads, the drip campaign, or even the copy on the ad. Facebook ads, and I mean the initial ad, not the retarget. The retarget can be a little bit different. But Facebook ads, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube, wherever you're running them, you're driving cold traffic.
Right.
That awareness campaign cannot be intimate because people don't know you, like you, or trust you. That's where you're starting to peripherally introduce your brand so that people start recognizing. So that campaign has to look different than, let's say, when you're stepping on a stage and giving a presentation. Then you're really warm to hot traffic because someone, let's take you last weekend, 2 weekends ago at Aaron Young's event. Aaron has sold tickets. He sold out a room. He's promised really good talent there, really good people coming in to teach. He has vouched for you before you get there as one of those people who's going to deliver great content. You can be much more direct and intimate with that audience because you've already been vouched for. They already know you're going to bring them something good, and they're seeing you in person.
Right.
So you're accessible. You sat at the tables with everybody else. You were approachable. That's going to be a different kind of feel to it because they know you.
Right. It's so different when it's cold, guys. You have to really look at it and say, how am I bringing who I really am into the conversation? How am I bringing what we're really about? And that requires some emotion. And so, when you hear Juliet and I here, we're passionate. We're excited about what we talk about. When I'm in person, I'm the same way, right? And so, and that gets across. I talk with my hands, just like I do on video. I talk like that in person. So, all of that happens. But how do you get that through when you're writing a post, when you're writing an ad, when you're writing a landing page copy? It's really hard. And so the default is for you to strip out all the emotional punch out of it. Mm-hmm. And that's where we go wrong. We think, it has to be more business-like. No, it actually doesn't. Mm-hmm. And that's the secret to it. But it needs to be not like whiny or emotional, like we don't need, the drama. Like that's not, we
Right?
don't want to hear any stories. We don't care about that because it's not about you. It's about the audience. I say this, I don't know, hundreds of times a day, I think, to just about every client who tries to pitch me what they should call their podcast or something. But, it has to be about the audience and where their emotion, where they are emotionally, not where you are, or where you came from, or your story. That does not belong in this type of copy.
Correct. I mean, there's a little bit of your story sometime, but here's the deal, the drama thing.
Yeah.
Here's what people think when you bring drama to social media. How does she have time to serve me?
Yeah.
There's somebody, and I won't mention, hopefully she's not watching, that's on my page that constantly brings drama to the table. And what's worse is it's not even just on Facebook. The identical post is on LinkedIn. And,
no.
And that's not even where, first of all, TMI. Secondly, I honestly think from the post sometimes like, wow, if I hired her, would she ever have time for me? I mean, that drama is a full-time job. So don't do things like that. The second thing is
that I just want to stop you right there. So I was at an event about a month ago, and the introduction to this woman, and I'm always looking for a new CPA. And because I'm an accountant, I have fired so many. It's like a funny story. Like I have hired and fired like 5 in the last 7 years. So, it's bad. Yeah. So, and I absolutely cannot keep doing it myself. It's just, it has to happen. I've got to hire someone new. So this woman's introduced up there. She sounds kick butt. She talks about how obsessive she is about the tax code and about accounting and all of this stuff. And I was like, she sounds innovative in how she thinks about this. And I'm thinking to myself, wow, I may have just found someone who's perfect because that's what I was complaining about. It's like, they're all just using a quick, what is it, TurboTax formula, and they don't know anything about it.
really,
yeah, or they're following like old school stuff. That's what I found. And they don't have a holistic approach to a business. So this is my complaint about it. So this is why I keep firing them. And so anyway, so I'm thinking she's innovative. I walk up to her and she's telling this whiny story about divorce and how like bad it is and how, scheming her ex-husband is. And I'm thinking to myself, my God, this woman, I don't want to listen to this. I don't have, why would I do business with that?
Mm-hmm.
What does it have to do with anything? And I think about that all the time when I read posts.
Really, my last 2 CPAs have died. I have to give Kathy.
No.
I have to give Kathy Cregan a heads up. A yay!
You're a jinx.
I guess my books are so bad that people would rather die than do them.
Oh no, that's terrible. Well, but anyway, back to this. But this is not the place for it. It's not the place when you're out at events. It's not the place when you're on your social, especially when we have so much of our business and personal social mixed. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying don't be emotional about it. I'm not saying don't bring your passion and excitement to it. I'm saying don't bring the drama.
Right.
Right. So I posted last week. Yeah. Like last week I was prepping for it was like a podcast interview that actually got rescheduled. It's this week, but I was prepping for it and I was listening to this woman's podcast and I came across this really great episode that had some really interesting data and information in it. And when I shared it on both LinkedIn and Facebook, it was like my best post in the last 2 months. And it just had all kinds of comments, all kinds of shares, lots of likes and all of that. And it was just my gut reaction, my reaction to the data about this. And I really, and all I did say at the end of the day is that, God, what a cool job I have because I get to listen and learn something to do my job. And like, that was the end message that I put there. I also shared what I learned and linked to it because it was really cool information. But, that in and of itself, I mean, no one could have written that but me. And that's where we also have to think when we have our teams writing things, a marketing company like Juliet was referring to before, our VAs, they're cautious. They're conservative. If you don't look them over and rewrite them or, take them as a guideline and add some punch into them, add some excitement into them, add some of you back into them. So I allow my team to post on, I admit it, Twitter is an auto post thing because we've already discussed how much I hate Twitter. But it's an auto post, like it's a standard post. It says you have Tracy aired a podcast today. Like that's it. But Facebook, I have a team who does a lot of the posts in there, and then I go in about a couple of times a week because I'm just not in Facebook a lot. A couple of times a week, and I post some things on my own. But LinkedIn, I care about how I am perceived on LinkedIn because I've spent a long time crafting that and carving it out. And I have a certain tone that I use that I've not been able to have anyone get. So they'll prep up things that they think I should share so that I'm sure of what's going out, because I don't know what's going to be live this week at any given time. It'd be too much planning for me to try to figure that out and do it. So they set my queue and buffer because that's what we use. And I go through it and I change almost all of the post tags to being a little in my words. And that's it. So it's really super simple. And I can go through I usually do it on a Sunday. I can go through on a Sunday and I can go through the whole week's posts and just for LinkedIn and just make sure that they sound like me. And if that's the minimum you do for the one social media platform that you care about, that you show up, that your audience is in, and that's what matters the most, that your audience is actually there and mine is, that's going to make a huge difference in the traction.
It definitely is. And here's the other reason you should do that. Have you ever gone to an event and you love somebody's posts and then you meet that person and they're not anything? They're not anything like their posts. And
I think I look way younger and hipper on Instagram than I actually am in person. So
you're kind of hip in person.
Yeah, but I somehow come across much younger. And it's probably to do with my team who makes the graphics, right?
I'll tell you, about 3 years ago, I interviewed, there was a young lady who was a former high-end call girl. And if you looked at her posts, if you looked at her books, you would not have gotten that when I met her in person, totally classy lady, like unbelievable classy. And I was kind of surprised because just that whole, like everything about her everywhere else didn't give off that vibe at all.
See, that would have been so like that. Sometimes diving into who you really are and having that resonate in the right place with that right audience, with that kind of, that juxtaposition of what she does for a living or what she did for a living to, who she is being classy like that. That's awesome. Like that's a reason for people to read your book. Go check you out.
It not only is, the book was about how to keep your man interested. So
yeah. So why not do that?
Why not?
So I want to show everyone a couple of things that I use when I'm trying to, because you know what? I write a lot of things every single week. I probably write about, 12 articles a month and, and gosh knows how many, pieces of copy and other things or things that I rewrite for people. But here's my go-to Bibles for this. This is phrases that sell. Phrases that sell. Edward Wirtz and Sally Germain, and I will put a link in the post after our talk here. I love this one because phrases, I think sometimes we get a little redundant in our phrases and we're like, and we just get, get a sneak peek at, well, how about get an advanced look of, it's, there's like other words in there and you're like, oh, I could totally use that. And the way that they're organized in here is so nice. They talk about them as descriptive phrases or ones that are popular slogans. And so they kind of give you so when you're looking for what type you want, it already is kind of guiding you to the emotional message you want to give. So I love that one. Mm-hmm. Then the other one that I have is Words That Sell, which is the same company, but it's a different author. It's Richard Bayan. Okay. I don't know what I would do with that. There's like 6,000 words in here and they're just amazingly awesome. So sometimes you look in the thesaurus. It happens to me all the time. I look in the thesaurus and I'm completely dissatisfied with any of the choices. The choices in here are so much better. And so they give you also they start out with so thank you for writing us. And what would be, so they're giving you a phrase and then some impactful words that you might use. So it kind of helps with how you would use them too. So these are my two favorite books. And I have to thank Dustin Matthews actually for this. So you know Dustin Matthews, I think, Juliet, and he's an amazing digital marketer. And he's the one who turned me onto these books 4 years ago, and I just have absolutely kept them at my desk ever since then.
Nice. Very nice. I think my favorite one is Frank Luntz.
Right.
Yeah. Words that, what is it called?
Words that work, you told me
Words
earlier.
that work. I was looking at your words.
My words aren't working, but you know.
My words aren't working, but go buy that book. Yeah, it's not so much the phrases, it's really advertising and political. And don't worry, political, it's not like that political, like, on the news today. It's about messaging, crafting the message. And it's really, really powerful about perception versus reality. What you say may not be what people hear.
Right. And that's also very, very true. Like, we really do need to carefully think through our words sometimes and our images for how they're being perceived by our target audience and by the audience that we want. So, I don't want to focus group things. I come from a really bad focus group experience in the product world. Like, focus groups meant that they killed great products. So that's not what I want for you. But being able to make sure that there's some more ears or eyes on what you're putting out there is really important to make sure you're not getting especially today when we're so politically sensitive, that there's not a misconstrued meaning. Sexism can happen in the process. Julie and I were talking about her cover to our book, that, it could appear very sexist based on how it comes out. And so we have to be careful with that.
And y'all know I don't give a damn.
But you want it to sell, right? You want it to sell. Yeah. So thinking about how, really sitting back and thinking about how it's being perceived is important. So brand is about perception. We've talked about that before. It's how people perceive your brand, not how you put it out there. So the last thing I kind of wanted to talk about, Juliet, was that I've been rewriting our mission statement because I'm doing this program with Aaron Young, and I've been rewriting it, and I just realized how emotionally impactful it is right now. And when I finally got it right, and I wrote it, I drafted it, and then I brought it in front of my partners, Tom and Alexandra, and we sat out and we looked at the whole thing, and we finessed a few words. And as soon as we did it, we read it back and we were like, mic drop. Like, it just was right. And like, that's a great feeling. If you get your copy to that place where you go, mic drop, like, you've got the emotional punch. And now the question is, go ask someone in your absolute target audience to see if they get it the same way that you put it out there. And if it works, go for it. Go try it.
Yes. So a couple more things. First of all, I want people to remember, when you try to copyright your own, always send it off to a professional copywriter and have them look at it. We have this big blind spot when it comes to our own marketing. Even though I can copyright, and send it off. A lot of times I send it off to Tracy, and she comes back and says, "Sweetie, like, what do you
need a little more emotion there."
Come on. So, always try to do that. I know copywriters can be very expensive. And sometimes if you can find a good copywriter that will do that for you, you can take the first stab and they can go in and clean it up.
And I actually like that better, Juliet, to be honest with you, because I see so far sometimes when you give them and just it's too broad, it's too general. Like when I worked with the marketing groups, they come up with something that's completely misunderstanding because they're in a rush. They want to get this job done. So they go for and they watch the very first video, or this is what happens. They listen to the first 5 minutes of your show and then they go, okay, I got it. And then they write what they think from that point forward. And they haven't actually gotten the whole impactful message. And so they don't understand how deep it goes and what it is, because they're going to take snapshots of things and go from there. So, and then they're also going to sometimes use something too programmatic. And so this way, if you start it starts from a different place. Their job is to really clean it up, make it have the emotional punch, make it flow, make it read well, because frankly, some of us we can't construct our sentences all the time. I have those issues all the time, and we don't notice that it's not reading well as we go through it, because we do it in pieces. That's what happens when we construct it in pieces.
That's very true. I love on my website, I started mine, so it's really in my voice, and my copywriter, which I did not write most of the copy on there. I started it and then Gina finished it. It's sassy. she picked up, she just changed my words to sassier. So,
That's good.
and I think the last thing in all of this as well is whenever you're doing this, write it to serve, not to sell.
Oh, I'm so glad you said that. Yes, absolutely. I mean, this is the thing. We're here to, if we're here to truly grow a great business, we have to be people of increase, right? We have to be people who are bringing more to the table, who care more about them and about how they're growing and what they really truly need. That's going to come through, and it needs to come through in your copy. And that comes from if you're sitting at your heart at a place of service.
Very much so. I heard the best thing today about so many people are signing up for programs, business programs that are really personal development programs. So I think that it's the reason I think that's really important is, yes, it's important to get your blockages out of the way, but if you're not a woo-woo coach, don't write woo-woo. Don't write to serve, but tell people what you're going to do without the woo-woo.
Right.
I don't know how that really connected to that, but it was just a thought I had from the interview I did this morning.
Well, that's, just thinking through that has to be the consistency of what you're delivering and what you are. And that's why you can have such an inauthentic, especially a landing page style message, because that's where I see it fall apart the most, is that they seem so salesy, and they don't, in the end of the day, seem like you. They don't seem like service. They don't seem woo-woo enough if that's who you are, or passionate enough if that's who you are. And that's where that emotional punch matters. So keeping in mind that it has to fit you and your audience so well.
It does. So what's on tap for, one more tip. I'm going to give you guys one more tip for copywriting.
That's good, because I need to look up what next week is, because I can't remember. I can't remember.
Traffic's really slow. And so, yeah. Okay. So here's a tip. Read it out loud after you write it, and see if it's coming off the way that you intended.
Such a good point.
Yes, very loud. So next week, wait a minute. Is this Marie's or is this yours?
What?
The Delicioso bruschetta.
Oh, no, it's her recipe.
Oh, it's okay. So it's probably.
I love bruschetta.
I do too.
It's like
and just in time for the holiday. Next week is Thanksgiving already.
I know.
So next week's topic, actually, you can go get the Delicioso bruschetta at mchef.com. I swear to God, every time I say your name, Marie, you're going to have to send me over.
Shing.
Shing. Next week's is delicious marketing that attracts.
Yum. Yeah. Yummy marketing. So
you're going to take that one?
So this is where I think we're going to talk a little more imagery for a change. We talk so much copy all the time. Next week, let's talk some more about imagery, because how it looks matters, right? How you look at, that's why bruschetta is so delicious, right? To me, it's got cheese and tomatoes and all the whole thing on it. And hers has got a few little surprises on there. I mean, who doesn't love that, right? So we want to create imagery and other things that people want to consume.
Exactly. And are we going to talk a little bit about proportion?
Yes, please.
Yes.
Because that matters. Yeah.
Yeah. Size matters, people.
Yeah. Remember, we're not eating the whole elephant here.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. So all of that. So that's what I think we're going to talk about it next week. So a little bit different than, even though we've been talking about this warm, fuzzy marketing for a couple weeks now, we got to address the imagery side of things.
Okay. It's getting cold outside, so we're going to get down to cold, hard imagery.
There you go.
All right. Thanks for stopping by, guys.
Take care, everyone.